Hello and welcome to another episode of the Millionaire Mentor Method podcast with me, your host, Krystal Kali, also known as the most famous woman in the world. So today I want to talk to you guys about how sometimes growth and scaling is not what you want, and how having a one-person business sometimes is the absolute best way to have your cake and eat it too. So I was just watching a bunch of stuff today on YouTube and listening to a bunch of podcasts, and I was clicking around through a common theme of solopreneurship. And this actually was also talked about in a book called The $1 Million One-Person Business. And of course, I'm forgetting the author's name, but you can pick that up and it talks just about this. And so for me, when I think of a one-person business, I think of someone, well, there's two ways you can look at it. So if you do want to have a one-person business, I would encourage you to look for businesses where you can be the only employee and you can be the owner operator, but it's something that you are happy to do every day and something that's not going to make you feel overwhelmed or overworked. So when I'm talking about these one-person businesses, I'm not talking about the one-person business where the person is completely frazzled and has no time and no personal life, and they're actually working 80 to 100 hour weeks, and with no vacations, and they're still just barely making it, and they're stressed all the time, and their quality of life is not very high. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a business where you're the only employee, but you have a nice, your day is nice. You can work a normal amount of work hours, and you can still have your personal time, and you have the freedom to be able to set your own hours and go on vacation when you need to. And you can be, if you have a family, you can be there for them and actually have more hours off and more hours with your family than, let's say, someone who is the CEO of a large business where they don't really have much time to dedicate to their family. So, and the more that you guys will get to know me, the more that I do actually subscribe to having some type of work-life balance, even though I don't always adhere to that myself. I'm human, and yes, anybody who knows me knows that I can definitely go for stretches that are years at a time, that I sometimes will not take a day off, and I won't have a personal life. But the thing is, I know that's not healthy, and I end up not, being very happy with myself when I end up doing that and forgetting that I don't have a work-life balance. So today's episode is definitely, we're talking about having a work-life balance, at least to some degree, and enjoying a life of freedom. So a couple things when it comes to these types of businesses and how to build a business like this in the easiest way. So one thing that we have to all realize is that there's certain businesses that are going to be inherently more flexible, or you could say inherently more easy than other businesses. So for example, if you start a business that has a physical product, so you're shipping t-shirts, or you're shipping, well, maybe not t-shirts anymore because we can do that print on demand, but let's just say that you have a business that is shipping a physical product and you have to have a warehouse, and maybe it's a product that you can't have warehoused to somewhere else remotely. And so when you have a physical product, that is going to be inherently logistically more difficult than if you are someone who sells a purely 100% digital product. So those are things like courses, ebooks, even newsletters, blogs, YouTubers, and podcasters, stuff like that. So if you can have a digital product, that would be ideal to have your one-person business, because it's there's no physical, there's no logistics to it. And you can sell a digital product for much higher profit margins than a physical product. And that's because a digital product, well, it doesn't need to be manufactured. It's digital. So you don't have to keep on making that thing in order to sell it. When you make it once, you can sell it over and over and over and over and over and over forever. And you never have to make that thing again. And a lot of times I've seen people with digital products like courses, online courses, that they kind of just set it and forget it. And they make this course, they put in the work to make the course, and they make it very well, and they make it have a lot of value, real value for people. And it's in a certain niche. And for the next 10 years, they're just pushing that course. So everything they do is just promoting that course, promoting that course, promoting that one course, and they just drive traffic to that course, and they never have to make that course ever again. And also, I just want to touch upon the fact that a lot of times we think that we have to, in order to be successful as entrepreneurs, that we have to start a business, we have a startup company, and then we have to grow it, and we have to scale it, and we have to get employees. And when we get employees, we have to get more employees. And when we get clients, we have to get more clients. And the more clients we have, the better. And the bigger we get, the better it is. And I just want to offer a different viewpoint of that, which is everybody's goals are different. Everybody's personality types are different. And I actually believe that there's a lot of people that would really, really benefit from looking into having a purposely one-person business. So this is a business that you're not sad that it's a one-person business. You're not trying to make it anything more than that. You want to be able to just run it by yourself. And there's a certain personality type that this is great for. And even though I'm now expanding my abilities and expanding my skill sets and things like that. But for me, for the vast majority of my life, I would say that I was someone that had the personality type of definitely being able to run things more smoothly when I'm just doing it by myself. And there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. It's a lot having to deal with employees and personality types, and that comes with a whole other legal, department. You have to deal with workers' compensation and payroll. And, when someone doesn't show up to work, and you're a small business and you really depend on your employees to show up, it can be absolutely horrible when somebody doesn't show up and you're too far away from, let's say, your office or your hub or whatever, to be able to deal with the situation. So for me, when I had my first successful business, which was Weed Dash, a cannabis delivery company in Santa Monica, which we ended up being, and just to toot my own horn so you can know a little bit of history of Weed Dash, we ended up being the second largest delivery service in Santa Monica and on the west side of LA. So for me, at any one given point, I would have somewhere between 5 and 8 employees. And just that little small team, sometimes I would be 3 hours away and one driver didn't show up in the morning, and then another driver gets a flat tire. And guess what? In the middle of the day, in rush hour, when I can't make it back to where they are with customer orders waiting and pending for 4 hours. And just the stress of that. I remember just being so overwhelmed with stress on so many days and not being able to control or regulate my stress or emotions, because I wanted to be the best, and I wanted our company to be known for always delivering that order when you needed it. And I hated having to call customers and having to apologize and say, hey, I'm so sorry, but your driver's not coming with your order. Most of the time, that person would cancel and never come back to my company ever again. And then they would write a horrible, scathing review and just be irate on their review, give us 1 star and the whole 9 yards. And so for me at that time, now looking back, I wasn't equipped with the skills I have now, but I wasn't really equipped. My personality type wasn't really that great for being someone to have employees. Even though I don't have any regrets, but I would probably have been better trying to form a company right from the beginning where I could have just been the only person. And some people could say, oh, well, if you want that, you're a control freak and blah, blah, blah. But I say, you know what? Sometimes easier is better. Sometimes simpler is better. If you don't have to worry about another person and you can make $1 million a year in profit. I was just listening to one individual who has basically his business is selling online. So he has back up. He has a course that he sells online, which teaches people how to use LinkedIn effectively. He also does one-on-one coaching for companies. And then a couple other things too. It was, he was making revenue with affiliate marketing and one other thing, but I'm forgetting what that one other thing is. But he is profiting over $1 million a year. Just to be clear, it's not just revenue. He's profiting over $1 million a year with just himself as the only employee. And he said his profit margins are around 95%. Which is crazy, right? So, and that's because all of his entire business model is completely digital. And the majority of his sales were coming from the online course, which he made it once and it was one and done. And now wherever he is, if he does speaking engagements or he's doing coaching or whatever it is he's doing, he's just interacting with other human beings in the world, he can push and promote that course forever, and he never has to make it again. I mean, hey, maybe one day he'll update it, but it seemed like he's had that same course for years and it's doing just fine for him. And I just want you to think also that there's certain things in life and certain ways of being that are not necessarily encouraged in today's society, but don't be afraid to do you. So if you are someone who's not very social, maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're just getting older and you just don't want to deal with people anymore, or maybe you just want to focus on your family, focus on yourself. Hey, look into this and don't be ashamed of maybe not being that person that doesn't want to scale. I also remember one time going to a Grant Cardone, the real estate mogul guy. I went to a Grant Cardone real estate weekend for one of my birthdays in Florida. And in the middle of the conference, of course, they have their little minions that go around and sell you other things. They try to upsell you on more courses and more whatever. And this one very nice young man took me, over and was trying to sell a course on how to increase sales. And I tried to not be rude, but I tried to just let him know that, I actually, at that time, I did not want to scale. And I just told him, I really appreciate it, but I don't want to be that guy. And, now things are different. I have a different perspective on things, and I do want to go bigger with my companies. But at that time, I didn't want to. I was fine how I was. And I also knew that growing and scaling can definitely add stress, and you can become overwhelmed if you're not mentally prepared for that. And if you don't have the personal development component to go with that, you have to have a certain level of internal fortitude, life experience, maturity, emotional stability, all of that in order to handle things when they start to pick up pace and you're handling more and more revenue and you're handling more and more responsibilities and you're having to interface with so many different personality types. A lot of people might not be so pleasant during the day. A lot of negativity can come your way when you're running a certain organization. because, hey, everybody loves to hate the boss, right? So at that time, I was like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to scale, and I appreciate this. You're doing a really good job, but I don't want to be that guy. And actually, it was funny because while we were talking, while he was giving me his sales pitch at that summit, that guy, that quote unquote, that avatar that I was thinking of, the hustle guy, the guy that's always going, kind of like the Grant Cardone guy, that type of guy walked up to us in the middle of it and interrupted us with something. I forget what it was, but talking about something that he needed to get done or do or whatever. And I could just sense in his voice and in the way he was walking and the way he's talking, just everything about him, that he was that guy, that hustle guy that's just going, always going and always selling and always like the car salesman guy and just, and when he left, I was like, that's the guy I'm talking about. I don't want to be that guy. I want to have like a nice, peaceful life. Like, I don't need to have 100 employees. I have my 6-7 little employees. That's enough for me right now. I'm making enough money. At the time, I was making somewhere around $200,000 a year just for myself. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't need the added stress. I'm already stressed enough right now. Like, maybe in a few years, maybe with a different corporation or something. But right now, like, I don't want to increase sales. I don't want to deal with it. And that's fine. That's fine. That's totally fine. So, and also, you don't have to be making $1 million a year. You don't have to even reach that far, right? Like, I know that, of course, not saying don't reach that far, because, hey, I'm trying to reach for over $1 billion valuation with my next company. So for sure, I love getting in there and getting crazy, but I'm just saying, let's be real. $200,000 a year is amazing. That is the salary of surgeons. And those are people that spent their entire life and have an incredible education. They spent their whole life trying to get to $200,000. So if you have that type of personality, I encourage you to look into certain people that have that quiet one-person business, that usually these people are not very boastful. So they might not be the person that's driving the fancy car and being flashy and being all over social media. Sometimes they don't even have social media accounts. So I encourage you to look into digital products. Maybe start just making a digital product of some kind. Start writing an ebook about something that you are good at, that you're skilled at, that you already know about. Look into creating an online course. There's so many different sites that are specifically geared toward just selling an online course. So those are things like Udemy. And there's another one I just looked up recently called, I believe, Podia, Podia. But it's so easy now, and just get started. Look into those opportunities that you can be that one-person business and just take it easy. All right, guys, that's it on that. Please go to millionairementormethod.com. We have an amazing community of entrepreneurs, go-getters out there that want to connect with you. We are building a mentor-mentee community. And yes, ladies, this means you. There are lots of female mentors who are being matched right now with mentees. And we're building a community, not just of women, of anybody, any gender, men, women, everything in between. But I'm just saying that this community, obviously, I'm a female, and I am aware of all of the struggles that we have, all of the unspoken obstacles that we have to deal with on a daily basis. One of them being that we tend to not have as large of business networks because Well, it's just hard out there for so many reasons. So if you're that person, if you're that lady or guy, but if you're that woman and you want help, you need help, or if you just want to connect with other people like you, please go to millionairementormethod.com. I'm building our course right now with some amazing people. So that is coming down the pipeline. But for now, we have the blog, we have our newsletter, and we have our community where you can start getting matched right now and use some of our free resources and tools. I'm uploading almost every day. I just uploaded my daily schedule that I use every single day. It's a daily one-page schedule that is, I call it the values aligned schedule, which means that every single day you write down your top few values. You write down, there's a box there for your number one priority of the day, the one thing that you have to get done that day. So not 3 things, not 5 things, but one thing that you need to get done that day, your number one priority. And then of course it does have other tasks, and it has a little notes section for shopping list, reminders, and notes, and then an hour by hour agenda. And the idea is that in the morning, you get this schedule and you are just get the schedule, look at it, and write out what you need to do for 10 minutes. And if it's not on that agenda, it ain't happening. So please go get that. You can get that at millionairementormethod.com/free-tools. Okay, guys, I love you all. Peace and love. And remember, each one, teach one.
The information provided in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice, investment advice, or medical advice. The host is not a financial advisor nor a medical doctor or licensed therapist. Any financial or medical decisions made based on the information in this podcast are made at the listener's own risk. It is recommended that listeners consult with licensed professionals such as CPAs, financial advisors, and licensed physicians before making any investment or medical decisions. The host and creators of this podcast accept no responsibility or liability for any loss or damages incurred as a result of the information provided in this podcast.